Okay, good morning everybody. I will try to do this video for you, doing something similar to what we did in class, but maybe not exactly the same. So the building that we're going to look at has diagonal braces on two ends, and it makes architectural sense to put them on the short end here. And then a shear wall over on the, let's call that the north face. Two different weights here to have a little bit of asymmetry, and what else? Creating these points. So I set them up to be 10 units wide, 4 units north-south, and then 5 units tall again. And then I did just a few more midpoints here. So it's this icon here under the point icon, midpoint down there, and then you just click on 2 and then you can get a midpoint between those, and then you could use that for a subsequent midpoint. So I just drew a shear wall in the back. I made it sort of gray so it looks like concrete, and then I had the two parts of the roof that symbolically are just shown like that, and then perhaps a darker color for the heavier one. So that's all just for fun. Doesn't affect the mathematics at all here, so just increase the opacity. Maybe increase the line thickness for the heavier one. Alright, so now we have sort of our building. Obviously we're going to need two loads, so the loads don't matter really. Let's call it F1 is 1,000, F2 is 600, let's say, and then F3 will be, I don't know, 400. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to put the heavy one on the north end, going north on the centroid of the heavier problem, and then a heavier plate, and then a line here through this one. In 3D, you could draw a circle with a radius, or you could draw a sphere, which is pretty cool. So let's try the sphere, see if that makes sense to you. We'll need a force scale, so perhaps 250 or so. I don't know. We could always change it. I'll draw a sphere with a radius right here, and that will be F2 over the force scale. And the nice thing about the sphere is that when you have it in 3D, you could get that point very quickly, and it becomes, I was going to say the icon changes here. I guess it didn't. Well, you want to make sure that you're snapping to the outside of that sphere. And then this one will be, so that sphere was F2, I think, right? Yeah. And then this sphere will be F1 over the force scale. And got that point there, so that's nice. So it's just a super duper fast way of drawing these things beautifully. Obviously don't delete anything, just hide them. And then another sphere on this one, that'll be F3. F3 over the force scale. And then you could spin your building around a little bit. Sometimes it clips the 3D view So in other words, it shows only part of the 3D picture. I think there's a way to turn that off or minimize that effect. Alright, so we got a nice looking building here now. 3 different loads. We'll obviously use the parallel axis theorem to get that problem. So I'm just going to hopefully solve this in 3D and see if that will make sense to you. We're about 5 minutes in. I'll go another minute and then we'll stop this. So what I'm going to do is turn back 2 of those lines on here. And the inverse axis method means that I need to draw a line. I need to flip these. So this one is based on S and U, I think it said. And I think I hid S. Yeah. And then this one is based on T and M. And I think I hid T. Alright, so I think, let me see if I can do this. A perpendicular line, or a parallel line. Let's do parallel line. Parallel line through that point, and then a parallel line through that point. What I'm going to do is flip the 2 for the inverse axis method here. So let me just get that intersection right here. Probably use the intersect tool just to be real precise. This line and that line gives me the shorter load, and then this line and that line gives me the longer load. So it's the inverse axis method. So the longer one is here, so now I can do a segment. Let's make it something. Nope, that's wrong here. From the shorter one. Okay, so now you could see, hopefully, that it will be on the heavier one. The intersection is closer to the heavier one. I'm just going to intersect that and that. And that's where the resultant is on the north-south direction. You can hide all these lines. And then line parallel here to that. And then I could put a sphere on this. And that sphere's radius will be F1 plus F2. Use a parenthesis here over 4 scale. You want them both over the 4 scale. Maybe the 4 scale should be a little bigger now at this point. And here's my point. And now I could put this vector on as from here to here, and maybe change these so that they are less. I think you can't change the opacity in 3D, so let's just change the color. Make them pink or something here. Super light. Something like that. Okay, so now let me hide this line. I'll stop and we'll take a break, and that will be how we're going to find point Q. Okay?